ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ross Riak, and I will be talking to you about gamified education and specifically using the Classcraft program. Some of the things that we're going to be covering in this presentation are why we should use gamified learning. I'm going to introduce the cost and different types of accounts that you can have with Classcraft. We're going to talk about setting up a class, some of the class tools available within the program. I'm going to explain the XP, HP, AP, and GP. So by the end of this, that'll make perfect sense to you. Talk about setting up powers, sentences, rewards, consequences, and the random events. I will talk about choosing your character, the pets that are available for students, how to choose teams, how to build quests, which are the actual lessons, and some of the benefits and the observed results from using this gamified learning that I have experienced. Why should we use gamified learning? Well, in this age of social media, one-on-one devices at school, and popular games like Fortnite, PUBG, Minecraft, and more, students are always plugged in, always switched on, and they're always connected. So, what's going on here? When surveyed, 85% of my Year 8 class regularly played games on their computer in some form. Creating a reward-based behavioral motivation based on Skinner's theory of operant conditioning helps reduce rather than manage in-class behavioral issues, and it also promotes teamwork and team accountability. Creating a friendly competition in the classroom strengthens student support, it encourages initiative, and it promotes classroom interactions among students. After all, if we can't beat them at the games, let's join them. Let's make them play our games. If we're talking about the costs and different types of accounts, you have the basic option, which is free, the premium at $8 a month, or school and district account. For me, I just used the premium account. I didn't bother using a school account because I seemed to be the only teacher at the time that wanted to use it. Whilst you can sign up for free, this will let you sort of play around with some of the features and get the hang of it. You can't actually create or add a class, and you can't create quests in the free version. It'll let you play around with it in the trial page, but you can't add a class to it and you can't actually use it. So it's good practice, get a feel for it, but ultimately if you actually want to use it in any sort of classroom environment, you need the premium. If we're going to do the math, if $8 a month is the package, that works out to about $2 per week, 28.6 cents per day, and 1.2 cents per hour. So, you know, I'm not saying it, but it's probably not going to break the bank. So if I want to set up a class, I just go new class, I give it a name. So for example, I will call this the Flipception class. Ordinarily you could just call it maths or science or whatever you're actually teaching. So now it wants a duration. So this is not particularly important. I don't actually really use it, and I'm not even sure what the influence of hours per week is other than possible statistics. Add existing students is good if you have a student database or a class code that already have an account. For me, most of my kids don't have Classcraft, so I use this method. This lets me use Google Classroom. If you are already using this program, you can just upload or import your class into it, and it integrates quite well with Google Classroom. I don't use it, so I just add manually, and in this case, you just enter the names of your students, so 1, and this can be 2. You manually enter just the names of all your kids, and I'll just go create account. Now it gives me the option to create the teams. I'll create 2 teams for this purpose. Here it gives me the option so the teams can choose what their logo is for the team crest, and they can choose their own custom background. So I'll save that, and I'll put 1 student in each team. Generally the students will choose who they want to be with and let me know, and I allocate them into a team. Once the teams are all done, click finish, and obviously because the student hasn't set it up, there's nothing to view. Now if I go to configure my class, here I've got student codes for each student. So the students can just go to create an account, enter their student code, and it'll log them in. The other way I can do it is if I go distribute codes,
and download the handouts, it creates this document. If I had a big class, it creates a page for every student. Student 2, this is their student code. So all they do is go to the website, enter this code in, and it'll join them. Then if it asks for a class code to join, say, this class or a maths class or whatever, they can enter this code. Their parents can also use their code and create a parental account. That way they can monitor how the kids are doing. They can look at their work. They can look at things like their HP, their XP, and it'll show the information about what they were awarded HP for or XP and what they lost it for. So it just gives them the option to sort of engage a little bit in the Classcraft and see what's happening. So that is setting up a class.
HP. This is the student's health bar in Classcraft. HP is taken away for negative behaviour, and if a student runs out of HP, they fall in battle, and this is when they're given a sentence. Here are some of the examples that I have used in my class for removing HP. So, for example, like bothering another student, using a phone or a laptop for non-class activity, not bringing books or stationery to class, not paying attention, not following reasonable directions. These are just a couple of basic examples, and these are all fully modifiable. So here you can enter one-off things, or down the bottom you can type in your own concept. If you want something like this that you use regularly, you can just type it in, assign the value, and it'll save it for future use. Teammates can use their powers to protect a student from losing HP or falling in battle. So if I was to take 5 HP from a student, one of his teammates could use their power to take that for them or protect them from absorbing that. So that's part of the game aspect to Classcraft. Now if we're looking at AP. AP, or action points, are what regenerates overnight. So it's required to use powers, and when we look at characters, mages are actually given more AP than the warriors and the healers. So here you can see an example of a power. So this is protect. This costs 10 AP for a student to use, but it gains them 100 XP if they use it. In this case, the warrior can take up to 10 damage instead of their teammate, receiving only 80% of the initial damage. They can take it for another teammate, they get XP for it as a reward, but it uses up some of their AP. So here in this case, I was a warrior, I only had 30, so I couldn't use this more than 3 times a day. Hopefully you won't need to. Now we look at XP. XP, or experience points, are required to level up and gain new powers. XP is the fundamental reward or currency in Classcraft. So here's some examples of things that I would give XP to. So we've got currently answering a specific or a tough question, helping another student with their work, going beyond the call of duty, which can be whatever you interpret, uploading sweet videos or demonstrations to OneNote. So this was applicable to my class where we did a lot of science pracs, and I would get them to upload videos onto OneNote, and I would entice them to do so with XP. Reading the quote of the day was something that we did in care group every morning, and I would give them a motivational quote. So this was a really good way to encourage them to come out of their comfort zone and read something out loud in class, and I saw some really good results. Participating in the morning group activity, getting an A for a test, and anyone that had a birthday. So these, again, the values are fully customizable. You can create your own, and you can add one-off events if you feel the need. Now if we look at gold, or GP. This is used to purchase items in Classcraft, like outfits, clothing items, shields, and weapons. Gold is typically only rewarded for unique tasks, and it can be self-earned through the training of pets. So here's some of the examples that I use for gold: being ready before the bell rings, handing in an assignment a day early, helping another student catch up from being absent, or uploading videos to OneNote. Classcraft has a range of inbuilt tools, and this can be utilized in your lessons. So some of the examples are, and this is the dashboard of what you see. You've got your Wheel of Destiny, the Riders of the Vey, the Boss Battles, the White Mountain, the Forest Run, the Maker's Valley, and the Treasures of Tavaros. So these are just fancy words or fantasy names for basic functions, and we'll talk about these now. So the Wheel of Destiny is a random student or team picker. Being able to do this in Classcraft saves you having to use another website or a random name generator, and it gives you the option to adjust their stats once selected. For example, if I was to use it for a random player, it picked up student 1 as the random player. I can then assign XP to them, gold. I could take away HP if that was required for whatever the task, and here I can manually adjust any statistic I want. It basically just acts as a random picker for a team or an individual student. Random events, the riders of the Vey. Here's an example of a random event in use. So I used to do this at the start of every lesson. That was my routine. In this case, the event for today is Fight Club. The first rule about Fight Club is no one talks about Fight Club. So this tells me that warriors must work quietly today, and the warrior who's the most quiet earns 1,000 XP. So this is one example of a random event, and you can create these yourself if you come up with anything you want. There's an endless supply. A lot of them I looked up on the internet, and there's a couple of good forums that have other teachers have shared some of their ideas. And I think Fight Club was actually one I got from another teacher, so I can't claim the credit for it. These are generally any sort of a challenge, a scenario, or a reward or consequence for the class. They can be for a single student or a specific character type, and they're created and modified within your class settings. Sometimes it can be as simple as all the warriors lose HP. Sometimes it can just be everyone gets XP if you have a good day. Sometimes I'll have a challenge, like one of my favorites is that in their teams they have 5 minutes to write a poem to the game master, being myself, and the best poem as voted by the team gets the reward. So just little games or activities just to sort of start the lesson off. So here's a couple of examples of some of the random events that I run. Boss battles. This is not something that I actually used in my class as yet, but after looking into it a little bit more, I think it would be a really good activity, especially for like a random quiz amongst the class. Boss battles can be done individually within a quest or as a team or a classroom. It replaces the usual quiz to review knowledge or ask for responses from the students. The boss battle creates a game-style version of conventional testing in a turn-based battle of wits against the boss of your creation. Points or grades are rewarded based on the HP of the surviving student, which is a reflection of the number of answered questions. Students can still utilize their powers and use teamwork to revive and support each other within the boss battle if HP is lost, which is a consequence of answering something incorrectly. As you manually assign the amount of HP taken from the boss per question, you can actually make the battle harder or easier if you wish, and you can create a graduated difficulty level to test the higher achieving students. Here's an example of a boss battle. So here in this case I'm battling with just random students. I start the battle and go. So a question comes up and Tisha in this example has been asked to answer it. So I would then get Tisha's response based on what she said. She's either said this or she said something else. Let's say she said the right thing. I would just click correct, and then it would take away health from the monster or the boss. If they answered the wrong thing, it would take away HP from the person. Here you can see that their teammate has opted, Miguel has opted to use his power and has actually protected him. So now, once again, they have asked a question, the student has answered correctly, and the boss has lost HP. And on we go. Okay, and then once enough people get the question right, the boss is defeated and you can award XP or gold to students. So this can all be modified, so you can have a larger or small amount of XP and larger or small amount of GP as the prize for defeating the boss. So now the countdown timer. So this is the white mountain. As the name suggests, it's just an actual timer. So you can set the time for how long you want it to count down for. Once the time runs out, if I wanted to, I can assign an award to a player or a team, or I can purely use it to give the students an idea of how much time they have during a task. The other one is the forest run. So this is just a stopwatch. As the name suggests, it's quite simple. You just enter the time, click start, and the stopwatch runs. The volume meter. This is one of my sort of favorite tools within the Classcraft program. As the name suggests, it uses your device's microphone to create a decibel meter gauge in which you can set the threshold for. This can be utilized at any time to keep the classroom below a volume level with a reward of XP or GP for successful completion, or a loss of HP if it crosses the threshold at any point. Okay, so if I decide to assign a reward for the volume meter, let's say I will give them 100 XP, or if they exceed the volume, I will take away 5 HP. So that's the penalty. Then I just say next. Gives me a trial. So here I can see at this kind of volume, this is about how loud it is. So if I want to set it for around this volume, this seems like a good mark, and then start. So now you can see I can adjust this live. If I realize it's a little bit too loud or too quiet, I can tweak this on the spot. The other good thing is if I go back into my class or I do something else, I can see that my volume meter is still running at the top. So I can still do other things in the background using Classcraft without having to just leave the volume meter there. This is a really good tool to keep the class quiet or on task during a period of time. I often find that kids will test it. So you set the volume and they'll start clicking their fingers or coughing or doing things deliberately to see whether they cross this meter. And basically, provided that you don't exceed the volume by the time that you say finish, it'll come up and say, congratulations, everyone wins HP. And if I click finish, it'll assign that to them. The other thing is if I set it as a -5 and I set my volume down here, and if I get a little bit too loud or I get too close, oh, it comes up with a you were too loud. So you've scared away the spirits. It'll take 5 XP. So I can either say false alarm if it was me that set it off or someone walks into the classroom, or I can opt to just keep going, basically like a second chance. So one of the things that I've noticed is because this uses the microphone in your laptop, often if you're standing next to it and you say something, or you're sitting at your desk and the laptop's there, you've got to be aware of how much noise you make, because obviously the closer you are to the microphone, the louder it appears. So that's one thing to take into consideration. Choosing your character. There are 3 possible characters within Classcraft. You have the warrior, the mage, and the healer. So we'll talk about the differences in terms of powers, which you can modify, but at a basic level, the warrior has the most amount of HP to lose. So he has 80, whereas the mage has the largest amount of AP, or action points, so they can use the most powers, and the healer has the middle range for health and the lowest amount of AP, but their powers are quite different. So looking at the powers, apart from unlocking new outfits, equipment and pets, gaining new powers is a big motivation for students to earn XP and level up. Powers are completely customizable, and you can design them to aid the students and to provide perks or assist their whole team. I generally molded my powers around the character types to create abilities that would appeal to a different type of student. So my mages I built to appeal to the silent achievers who like to slip under the radar, and yet they can still contribute to the team. I did this through the power of invisibility and various powers to protect and revive teammates. The warrior is typically the more outspoken student who doesn't mind taking the heat, and he can do this through absorbing a teammate's penalty and often encounters random events that involve forcing them to remain in their seat or not to speak. The warrior has a higher HP than others, and this can be used to accommodate their expected penalties throughout the classes. The healer is a team-focused player and is the only one with the power to regenerate a teammate's HP. All characters have the higher level powers to aid them in testing and assignments. An example of this is the mage. At the most basic level, the mage can use a mana transfer, so all team members except other mages gain 7 AP. Then as they move down and level up, they get more and more, so the teleport and invisibility we mentioned before, this allows them to trade places with another classmate, whether this is answering a question, losing HP, or stealing a reward. And invisibility allows them to avoid answering a question or receiving loss of HP. So some of the more timid students can use their power as a way of avoiding being the center of attention or coming up the front or anything like that. My warriors, they can take up to 10 damage instead of a teammate, receiving only 80%. They gain 1 HP for every level they have, but always gains at least 5 HP. They can listen to music. This was one that actually attracted a lot of the students, being able to listen to music during class, provided I wasn't giving instruction. This was quite an enticing power for many students. At a high level, they can take up to 20 damage for a teammate. They can choose what the class does for 4 minutes or pack up 2 minutes earlier, and they get a hint on an exam question at a higher level. The healer, a teammate gains 10 HP. So as we talked about before, they support the team by using their power to assist teammates and regenerate them. They can have their phone out during class for a maximum of 5 minutes or listen to music. They can have a day's extension on an assignment. A teammate can help you answer a question during a test or boss battle. And when a teammate, not including the healer, falls to 0 HP, they avoid all penalties and come back to life with 1 HP. So they avoid the sentences, which we'll talk about shortly. Sentences. Sentences are delivered to a student who falls in battle, which means they have lost enough HP to virtually die within the game. A sentence is a punishment as a result of these accumulating negative behaviors. Some of the examples for sentences that I use within my classroom if a student falls in battle is cleaning up the classroom after the lesson for a week, receiving a yard duty, which is one of the school's disciplinary policies. They could lose all of their XP for a week and all gold, and then draw another sentence. My personal favorite is watching a TED video of the game master's choosing and writing a half-page summary of it. They could also write a poem or short story about why they fell in battle, how they will endeavour to support their team better in the future. The class then decides if their pledge is acceptable or not, and if they deem it unacceptable, they'll receive another sentence. These are all modifiable. Again, you can create your own. There's plenty of available suggestions online to really get the thinking juices flowing. Building a quest. Quests are actually your lessons. A quest is, in this case, I used coordinate geometry. They can be made with or without Google Classroom. So quests are like a themed story of the topic to be covered. A quest allows the embedding of images, videos, links, and assigned submissions. In my lessons, I use pre-recorded videos that I uploaded to YouTube, and I embedded these within the quests. By attaching the lesson slides to the tasks, the students could opt to open the slide and complete the blank sections. Some of them used screen sketch over the video, or they could rewrite the questions in their books and just complete by hand.
Okay, if I go into my class and go to quests, you can see here that I don't have anything set up. If I want to create a quest, I just click on the map. It gives me a whole bunch of options. I can choose a title, so let's call this the presentation quest. And I'll use that. Okay, click on the map to place your introduction. So I can choose anywhere I want. Let's choose this little spot here. Now, what's a story? So this is the introductory story about the quest. So here you can get pretty creative, come up with something a little bit fantasy based if you want to. You can insert a video if you had something that was already existed. You can insert an image, all this kind of stuff. So let's just go with that for now. So I've created my introduction. Now if I sit down here, I can add my first objective and I'll put it here. So let's make this a task. Here you can see that if I had a Google Classroom assignment, it links in quite well. I can also add the end of the quest, which completes the entire thing. So if I go task, I need to give it a name. So this will be task 1. So now we have the story. So this basically rolls on with your introduction. If you want to come up with some sort of a theme for the topic, rather than just say, okay, now watch this video, let's learn about algebra. You can come up with a bit of a fantasy storyline, and that creates a bit more interest in the topic. So this will be intro theme to quest. And if I go task, now this is the task. So let's say we were teaching maths in this example. This is what I used it primarily for. So I'm going to say plotting coordinates. Now, what I often do in this kind of instance is I have my task as watch the following video and complete the slides attached. Now I often insert a video here, and this is my flipped learning aspect. So I'll import the video that I often upload to YouTube. So if I go over to my YouTube channel, and this is the video I want. So if I open up this video,
Okay, so in this section we're looking at horizontal and vertical lines.
yep, so this is the one I want. So all I need to do is copy the link. So I can either share it or just copy the website. And then I come back to my Classcraft and I just go insert video, insert the website. And here it is. So lesson 7.1, vertical horizontal lines, and if points are on lines. Now it also gives me the option to upload a file. Often what I'll do is I'll click in there and I'll upload the PowerPoint slides that I use for this video, and then my students can choose how they want to complete it, whether they want to do it in their book. Sometimes they'll actually just screen sketch the video and write answers on as they go. Discussion, it gives you the ability to have a discussion page between students. You can view it as well. I actually learnt quite early on that this is not generally a good idea. I found it became a bit of a distraction in my class, and it got really out of control between the conversation that was going on. So after that, I pretty much just shut it down. And then the progress just says how much do you want to award them for completing each aspect. So for this task, I might say give them 500 XP and 10 GP. And now if I self-pace, which I often do, this allows them to continue without me approving it. So if I don't need to actually check their work before they go on to the next section, I'll tick this, and then from that point, they can just keep going through the whole unit. Now I've got my task, I create a little bridge, and now it's a usable task. This is the one I did on coordinate geometry. This is all the way up to the boss battle at the end. So I have my introduction, which has my story. I've got my little backstory. Here I said watch the video, answer the questions, so they would watch this on their computers. And then down here I've got the PowerPoint. So I can open this up and this will show me the slides that I used in my video. So here we go. So these are my slides that I used in my lessons. So here would be an example that students can either open this PowerPoint and complete this by using their stylus, or they can just copy the question straight into their book, write it in their book. I actually had quite a few kids that opted to just screen sketch, so they didn't even bother opening the PowerPoint. They just watched the video full screen, paused it, screen sketched over the top of the image, and then just saved screenshots of it, and that was fine by me. Once they've completed it, if I go to a student view, this is what they will see. They'll go to coordinate geometry. In this case, they're only up to, or this is my character, so I'm only up to the secret table. So I can get to this, read the story, read the task, and I just say, task complete, done. Now it'll load the next one, and I can keep going on from there.
In terms of observed benefits for using Classcraft in my classes, since I used it, I noticed that we had a lot of improvement to student engagement and well-being, as well as the learning advantages. The week after I introduced it, I was teaching a period on the periodic table in science, and I had one of my Classcraft teams approach me, and they propositioned that if they could learn the first 20 elements by the next lesson, that they should be rewarded with XP. This showed me that at the simplest level, Classcraft and the Gamified Learning encourages students to go beyond what is expected, even if it is in the interest of virtual rewards, such as XP. After students realized that XP was being awarded to answering a question in class, reading my motivational quote of the day, and uploading classroom material to the OneNote, I saw a huge boost in interaction from the students who previously remained silent, and the students now competed for my attention in the class to participate and engage. When using it as a flipped quest-based lesson tool in coordinate geometry, it allowed my higher achieving students to race through the content and undertake higher year level work and problems that I wrote for them, whilst allowing the extra time for the slower learners in the class. And I found that I was free to float around the room, helping students where they got stuck without interrupting the rest of the students' progress. So it allowed a really good flipped self-paced learning tool. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me now.